Timelash is the fifth serial of the 22nd season in the British science fiction television series Doctor Who, which was first broadcast in 2 weekly parts from 9 to 16 March 1985. Plot: the TARDIS is suddenly ensnared by a Contron corridor. After the Doctor tries unsuccessfully to free the ship, he and Perry strap themselves in, bracing themselves for the potentially disastrous occurrences. The TARDIS approaches the corridor, and is nearly torn apart by the impact but stabilizes once it has entered the corridor, and is navigated to the source of the disturbance, the planet Carfel, a world which the Doctor has visited before. On the planet Carfel, the small population is ruled in a rigid hierarchy, at the apex of which is the Borad, who is a sadistic and despotic ruler. The Borad has never shown himself in person, only via security monitors which reveal him to be a dignified old man. But something in his manner does not ring true. Fear is enforced rigidly through the policing of androids, and all rebels are dealt with either by summary execution or dispatch and death via the Timelash, a permanent, and ultimately fatal, exile down a corridor of time and space. Acting as a proxy for the Borad, the Malin is the most senior of the 5 councillors of Carfel. One of them, Micros, has grown unhappy with the rule of the Borad. Since the Borad came to power, the people have become disillusioned, rebellious and miserable, and the former allies, the Bandrils, oppose to invade. The Bandrils threaten war after the Borad rescinds the grain supply treaty which underpinned the relationship between the two civilizations. Micros determines to discover the truth and follows the Malin, Renus, into the Borad's power chamber. The unhappy Malin is transferring the power supplies of the Carfelans into the Borad's personal system, despite the danger to his own wife, who is recovering from hospital surgery. Renus finds Micros and gives him his blessing in rebellion. However, the Borad finds out and metes out the usual punishment. The Malin is aged to death in a deadly beam while Micros is sentenced to the Timelash. Before he can be sent in, however, Vina, Brenner's daughter and Micros' lover, intervenes to plead for his life. When this fails, she steals an amulet conferring the power to pervert the energy supply from the new Malin, the sycophantic Tekka, and accidentally falls into the web of the Timelash herself. The arrival of the TARDIS presents Tekka with an opportunity to try and retrieve the amulet. The clever Malin greets the Doctor and Perry as favored guests, but the Doctor is suspicious of a Carfelan society that has made huge scientific leaps in a short space of time and that does not permit mirrors. When the Doctor refuses to venture into the Timelash, Tekka explains that Perry has been taken hostage to ensure his cooperation in retrieving the amulet. She has been taken to the caves of the Morlocks, large lizards indigenous to Carfel, where her captors hope she will die. She is rescued by some Carfelan rebels, Cats and Cezanne, who kill one of the creatures threatening her and take her into the company. However, they are soon attacked and captured by a patrol of guards. To protect Perry, the Doctor returns the TARDIS into the Timelash and travels to Scotland in 1885. When the Doctor arrives, he finds Vina, the amulet and a young man named Herbert. All three depart on the return journey to return the amulet, which is all Tekka cares about when the TARDIS arrives back in the council chamber. The Doctor, Vina and Herbert are rounded up with the rebels. Cezanne and Cats are condemned to the Timelash. They fight back, killing the toadying Councillor Brunner, and seal the doors of the chamber, determined to hold out in a siege. This buys the Doctor enough time to hoist into the Timelash on a rope and take 2 Contron crystals from the wall of the time corridor. He uses this to create a time rose, allowing him to slip out of the chamber, and Herbert follows. Tekka has meanwhile fled to the Borad, and blames the setback on the last remaining loyal counselor, Kendron, whom the Borat executes. Tekka remains at the side of the Borat, now revealed to be a hideous amalgam of human and Morlocks. Together they watch on a screen as Perry is brought into a cave and strapped down while Morlocks gather to feed. A canister of the chemical MUSDAKOZDNE80 is placed nearby, which has the ability to fuse together different tissue as one creature. It seems the Borat has taken a liking to Perry and wishes to mutate her like himself. The Doctor arrives to confront Tekka and the Borat, recognizing the latter as Megalon, a crazed scientist he encountered on his previous visit to Carfel and exposed to the Council for unethical experiments on Morlockses. It seems one of those experiments has now gone wrong. A Megalon wishes to replicate its effect to create a partner. His plan has been to provoke a war with the Bandrels that will result in the use of warheads which will wipe out all the Carfelans, but leave the Morlocks and himself alive, allowing him to repopulate the world in his own image. This revelation prompts Tekka to rebel, but he is swiftly aged to death. The Doctor then uses a Contron crystal to deflect Megalon's beam back at him, killing the mutant in his wheelchair. Herbert now helps the Doctor rescue Perry. They return to the Council chamber where Micros and Vina have identified a Bandrel invasion fleet which is close to Carfel. The Bandrels are suspicious of the Doctor's attempts to intervene and prevent a missile strike, causing him to take drastic action. The Doctor materializes the TARDIS in the path of the incoming warhead, risking his own life to save Carfel. He does so successfully and returns to Carfel to find Megalon returned from the dead and threatening the Council chamber, or rather the other one was a clone of this original. Megalon is made unbalanced by the image of himself in a boarded-up mirror, revealing the reason he hid himself away, and in this state is thrown into the Timelash by the Doctor, where he may have ended up as the Loch Ness Monster. As the Doctor and Perry are about to depart and take Herbert back to his right time, Herbert says he wishes to stay on Carfel. The Doctor, however, confides in Perry that he has a feeling that Herbert will return to 1885. He shows her Herbert's calling card which gives his name as H. G. Wells. Continuity. At the end of this story, the Borat is thrown back in time to 12th century Scotland. The Doctor speculates that the Borat will become the Loch Ness Monster. This gives a second explanation for this creature, as in the serial terror of the Zygons, the legendary creature is a cyborg weapon of the Zygons. In the 8th Doctor novel The Taking of Planet 5, however, the Borat is revealed to have been killed by agents of the Celestes, Time Lords who cut themselves out of time to escape the future war, shortly after his arrival in the past as part of their efforts to eliminate temporal anomalies on Earth. This story makes reference to a previously unseen adventure where the third Doctor, Joe Grant, and an unnamed second companion visited Carfel. This adventure has yet to appear in any of the spin-off media, although the Virgin Missing Adventures novel Speed of Flight by Paul Leonard mentions that the third Doctor and his companions, Joe Grant and Mike Yates, are on the way to Carfel at the start of the particular story. Joe mentions visiting Carfel in the Sarah Jane Adventures story Death of the Doctor. The 10th Doctor meets H. G. Wells again in the IDW comic The Time Machination. Production. The music for this story was provided by Elizabeth Parker, who had formerly contributed special sound for Blake 7. Cast notes. Paul Darrow had previously appeared in Doctor Who and the Silurians as Captain Hawkins. Dennis Carey previously played Professor Chronotis in the incomplete serial Shada and the Keeper in The Keeper of Traken. Darrow has acknowledged that producer John Nathan Turner was initially unhappy with his performance, which he based on Richard III, and he was accused of sending it up. However, he claims Nathan Turner later praised him, saying, "You were absolutely right to do it that way. The script wasn't that good and you made something of it." Broadcast and reception. In favor of critical response, Timelash was panned by Doctor Who critics. Graham Slight has noted that Timelash is widely regarded as one of the worst series ever broadcast as part of Doctor Who, claiming the story has a weak script, cheap-looking design, unimaginative direction, laughable special effects and some appalling performances. However, Slight also praises Robert Ashby's performance as the Borad, claiming Ashby's performance elevates his menace to an entirely different level to the rest of the story. Reviewing Timelash, Tatwood described it as the grindingly dull story only memorable for being made as a school panto with belated new romantic 80s fashion errors. Wood singled out the story's script, production and costumes for particular criticism. In the Discontinuity Guide, Timelash was criticized for tacky sets and some dodgy acting, but was also said to be nowhere near as bad as its reputation. Doctor Who, the television companion, noted that the serial was not popular with fans of the show, but was at least a reassuringly traditional Doctor Who adventure in a season which contained derivative, incomprehensible and inappropriately violent stories. In 2013, the Daily Telegraph's Tim Stanley claimed, "The sets are bad, the acting is bad, the script stinks, the effects are laughable and, most importantly, Colin's Doctor is simply unlovable." Patrick Mulcahy of Radio Times said the serial was codswallop served cold. Boring TARDIS scenes are intercut with stultifying political machinations on Carfel, a drab planet ruled by a lethargic lizard man and about to be obliterated by glove puppet bandrels. Paul Darrow has described Timelash as the most disliked and also one of the most liked, which is fascinating. Commercial releases. In-print a novelization of this serial, written by Glenn McCoy, was published by Target Books in December 1985. Home media. Timelash was released on VHS on 5 January 1998. It was released on DVD on 9 July 2007 with a commentary provided by actors Colin Baker, Nicola Bryant, Paul Darrow, and Robert Ashby along with a selection of other features.